On November 1st, 1932, Charles Pretty Boy Floyd walked into the Sallisaw State Bank in Oklahoma and began robbing it in broad daylight. There was little attempt to hide who he was. People in town had grown up with him, former classmates recognized him, and according to later local accounts, members of Floyd's own family even came into Sallisaw knowing what he intended to do. His 75-year-old grandfather reportedly positioned himself near the bank, hoping to watch his grandson carry out the robbery. How did one of America's most wanted outlaws return to his hometown, rob a bank surrounded by people who knew him, and still manage to escape? Charles Pretty Boy Floyd was no stranger to Sallisaw, Oklahoma. He had grown up in nearby Sackaway County, and many of the people living in and around the town had known him long before the newspapers began calling him one of the most dangerous outlaws in the country. By the fall of 1932, Floyd was already wanted for a series of robberies and had developed a reputation throughout Oklahoma as a bank robber who could disappear into the rural communities that knew him best. But returning to Sallisaw was different. This was familiar territory filled with former classmates, neighbors, and relatives who could recognize him immediately. Instead of avoiding the place where his identity would be obvious, Floyd chose the Sallisaw State Bank as his next target. Floyd's goal was to rob the Sallisaw State Bank quickly and leave town before local law enforcement could organize a response. He was accompanied by George Birdwell and at least one other man, but unlike many bank robberies, there was little secrecy surrounding their arrival. According to later local accounts, Floyd spoke with people he knew before the robbery and made no serious attempt to disguise himself. One story even places him at the barber shop next to the bank, where he reportedly asked the acquaintances not to use the telephone while he was inside. Whether every detail of those later recollections can be verified or not, contemporary reports confirm that several people in Sallisaw recognized Floyd during the robbery. He was attempting something unusually bold: rob a bank in a town where his face was already familiar and depend on speed, intimidation, and his knowledge of the area to get away. The greatest problem was that Floyd could not control who walked through the door. As the robbery continued, customers entered the bank and found themselves facing a man some of them had known for years. Contemporary reports said several witnesses recognized Floyd immediately, including people who had attended school with him. Each new arrival meant another person who could identify him and another chance for the word of the robbery to spread through town. According to later local accounts, friends and relatives were already nearby, and Floyd's 75-year-old grandfather had even come into Sallisaw hoping to see what happened. What had began as an unusually open robbery was becoming increasingly dangerous. Floyd might have been surrounded by familiar faces, but familiarity offered no protection once somebody raised the alarm. He and his companions now had to get themselves and the stolen money out of town before the Sallisaw could react. The situation changed when Floyd and his companions decided they had stayed long enough. They gathered approximately $2,530 from the bank and prepared to leave, but they did not go alone. Assistant cashier Bob Riggs was forced into the getaway car as a hostage, giving robbers some protection if anyone attempted to stop them as they fled through town. Within minutes, the robbery that had unfolded in front of people who personally knew Floyd was over. The car sped away from Sallisaw and Riggs was released near the edge of town. By the time authorities could organize a response, Floyd and his companions had disappeared into the countryside they knew so well. The robbery succeeded, but there was never much mystery about who committed it. Contemporary reports says several people in Sallisaw identified Floyd, including residents who had known him since his school days. He and his companions escaped with roughly $2,530, and no one inside the bank was killed. What made the robbery memorable was not the amount of money taken, but the setting. Floyd had returned to the community where he had grown up, robbed a bank in front of people who recognized him immediately, and according to later local accounts, did it while friends and relatives gathered nearby to see what would happen. Instead of hiding from his past, Pretty Boy Floyd had walked directly back into it and still managed to escape. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to further support the Eclectic Historical Society, you can join us on Patreon or visit the eclecticalhistoricalsociety.com to check out our merchandise. Until next time, this is the Eclectic Historical Society, and remember, history is lost if it's not repeated.